everybody, welcome to the Odd Vlog. Today is Thursday, so it's the fourth video for this week, plus a load of short videos that have been put up. So wasn't entirely sure what to talk about today. I was initially just going to do my reaction to yesterday's new What If episode, and then they also announced something called Disney Genie for the American parks, which is essentially a paid fast pass system like they've got in Paris, which I don't know if I've got the energy to actually talk about that anymore. It's just a rip-off. But anyway, so I think we'll stick with the episodes of What If. So episodes 1 and 2. So episode 1, Captain Carter. So what if Peggy Carter had taken the super soldier serum instead of Steve? And then episode 2 was what if T'Challa was a Star-Lord? I don't know why they say a Star-Lord and not the Star-Lord. But anyway, so we can talk about those. Now, as you can tell from the title of this, I have said, what's if, ... what's the point? And I do really mean that. It's getting so much praise, this show, and I'm kind of watching it thinking, what's the point of all of this? I get that it sort of demonstrates to fans and to viewers what the multiverse looks like, and the fact that you can have these Nexus events where the TVA now don't interfere, and it creates alternative timelines and alternative strands of events and things that happen. But they're getting things wrong, which people just seem to be completely glossing over and pretending aren't there. So in episode 1, puppy's just making some noise, sorry about that. In episode 1, Peggy and Steve, you see them, they have a conversation about wanting to go dancing, and Steve's always waiting for the right partner, blah 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 blah. And I had a really big issue with that conversation that they had in that episode, because the timeline of events, they actually have that conversation before anyone takes the serum, which means that in that show they've had that exact same conversation twice. So it's a mistake. It's clearly wrong. I don't know why. And also, in addition to that, we've got this random book that appears in Captain Carter where it explains the Tesseract and what it is and what it does. Why is it that they've got that book in that version of the multiverse, but they don't have it in the normal strand of time? So why doesn't that book come up in Captain America the First Avenger? The Nexus event in that episode is Peggy deciding that she's not going to go up to the booth. That is the Nexus event. So everything else before that should be exactly the same, because I don't understand why it's not. Why they're throwing in these really random different things. And unfortunately episode 2 did exactly the same thing. So if you have seen it, you'll see that there's a fight between, at the very end you get a fight between the Collector and T'Challa. Obviously it's the climax of the episode, and in that episode you get a load of weapons that the Collector uses in that fight, and he seems to have in his collection Captain America's shield and Thor's hammer. Well, what is it about a Nexus event where T'Challa gets picked up instead of the usual Star-Lord, that suddenly means that the Collector has Cap's shield and Thor's hammer? That Nexus event has got nothing to do with Captain America or Thor, so I don't understand how that suddenly means that he's got these things. And it's these silly little mistakes that are being put into this show which are kind of ruining it. It's canon, and yet it doesn't feel like canon. Yes, I get that it's a multiverse, so it's a different timeline and a different strand of events, but from a Nexus event, everything prior to that Nexus event is exactly the same, unless there's something they're not telling us. In which case, then there needs to be more to the story. And that's another one of my problems as well, is that they are taking what are effectively, I mean, this was worse in episode 1, they're taking what is a 2-hour film and cramming it into 30 minutes. It wasn't so obvious in episode 2 because it wasn't really playing on what we've seen in other films. It was a whole really new story. But in episode 1, it was basically a rehash of Captain America the First Avenger, but the events just are slightly different because of who took the serum. But because they're trying to cram that basically the same story into 30 minutes, it's so rushed. The pacing of episode 1 is so fast that by the time you get to the end, I couldn't care less about the characters that are in it. there's no time for you to sink in to the events that are happening. It's like so quick, and it just feels like a kids show. I mean, it's a cartoon, it's an animation, so maybe that's what they're going for. But I don't think they are. I think they're actually not aiming this at kids. It's a canon part of the MCU, which, you know, as we know, has always carried that kind of consistently 12 rating throughout every element of the MCU. And I assume that this is still being aimed at the same people. So it's just really bizarre. So I don't particularly like it. I don't like the fact that it's animated. To be honest with you, it feels cheapened, and it's clear to me that the reason why they've done it as an animation is because they can't afford to do it as a live action show or films. So it's clearly done to tell a story on a budget, and it looks that way in my opinion, and just cheapens the whole thing. So far, no, I'm not really enjoying it. And the biggest problem with episode 2 is that Thanos is part of T'Challa's team. He's a Ravager and effectively a good guy Thanos. And the difference between him being a good guy and a bad guy is because he has a conversation with T'Challa. A conversation. The whole big bad of an entire Infinity Saga and 20-odd films, and none of it need have happened if he had had a conversation. Right. That's just stupid. It is completely and utterly stupid. I mean, it's fun to kind of see this different side of him, but the premise of that story and the reasoning of it is pathetic. It's just awful. When you have fans that invest so emotionally heavily into an entire saga of films, and then you just turn around. I mean, it's a bit like with the whole TVA thing, where in the Loki series you find out the Infinity Stones from the TVA's perspective are completely worthless, and they just use them as paperweights. And yet we've had 20-odd films where they've been the most important thing in the entire universe. Now you've got who was supposed to be the biggest bad in the entire universe is like a pussycat because someone basically sat him down and had a word with him. It doesn't work for me. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work. I think episode 2 also had a lot of people being, I don't want to sound harsh, but slightly biased towards its review because it was obviously Chadwick Boseman's last performance as T'Challa, and I understand why that will make people more emotionally invested in it and probably enjoy it more. But you got to look past that and look at the episode for what it actually is, which to me is just bad storytelling, and I just don't see the point. What is the point? Unless these characters start to appear in the live action versions of the MCU, then why are they doing this? They can easily demonstrate through the Loki series and through what they're doing in the films and other shows what the multiverse looks like and how timelines can be expanded or changed, and how Nexus events create alternate realities and variants of characters. We don't need a crappy animation show to demonstrate that for us. It's just, I really hoped I was going to enjoy this show. I really, really did, because to me, the Infinity Saga is just awesome. It's just incredible. And what I think I'm leaning towards more in terms of the new content for Marvel is the stuff that still plays on that saga and that timeline. It's why I like Black Widow, because it still slots into that timeline. It's why I preferred Loki over Falcon and WandaVision, because the Loki series is a tangent to what happens during the Infinity Saga. So it's, compare it like this. Star Wars is episodes 1 to 9, and every new show or new film that they come out is happening within that timeline, and it's playing off of different characters and what have you. So they're still stuck within episodes 1 to 9. They're not looking at what's happening before or after, although they probably will do at some point. And we know there is a show, and there are obviously books that do tell those stories. But in terms of the Disney Plus shows that we got at the moment and the films that we've had, they are all within that strict timeline. Even the theme parks are held within that timeline period. So it's really different for Marvel Studios because they don't do that. They just have one continuous long strand of time that just keeps going and going and going and going and going. And I prefer it when they stick to that Infinity Saga, because to me, that's like god level status. That's not going to get any better than that. You know, the whole multiverse saga that they're going into at the moment, it could be good, it might, but I'm not invested in any of the characters at the moment because you've taken away all my favourite ones. So it's like, unless you start introducing ones like, you know, bring Daredevil back, bring Punisher back, put the Ghost Rider into it. We're obviously not going to get Natasha back. We're probably not going to get Steve back. Okay, that's fine. I'll let those two go. But you've still got the other three of my favourite characters in Marvel there, sat doing nothing, because, you know, the Netflix shows got cancelled for two of them, and Ghost Rider appeared in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I want him to come back. I want to see more of that character. Whatever iteration it is of Ghost Rider, because Ghost Rider's cool. Even the Nicolas Cage versions of Ghost Rider were brilliant films, in my opinion. They were just fun. They're great. What a cool character. So much of an anti-hero that it works for me. So I want to see that. I don't want to see the Eternals. I don't care about the Eternals. The trailer came out for that this morning, and it looks really boring. And then Shang-Chi is going to be out soon. The premiere was a couple of days ago. Again, boring. I don't care. I do not care about that character or anyone that's in it. So I'm not going to go to the cinema to see it. I'm not going to pay to see it on Disney Plus. So I'll see it when it comes out for free, probably. I don't know. But I just worry at the moment that Marvel are missing things, and clearly in this show I see mistakes, and it kind of just ruins the whole thing for me, really. So yeah, episodes 1 and 2, they have not landed the mark at all for me. They're getting a lot of hype and a lot of praise, but I wish people would actually just look a little bit more analytically at these things, because the mistakes to me are glaringly obvious, and it just kind of ruins the whole thing. So anyway, I mean, it's only 2 episodes in. It may get better. Episode 1 ended with Captain Carter sort of appearing through the Tesseract the way that Loki did in Avengers Assemble, and she appears in front of Nick Fury and Hawkeye exactly the same way that Loki did. Obviously she's a good character, not a bad one. And I would like to see where that goes. You know, are they going to do a culmination event for this series? Is it all actually leading somewhere? And then does that culmination event then tie into the live action stuff? Because if they do that, then I could get on board with it. But if it's just going to sit there as its own sort of show and series, then it kind of loses its impact and its meaning to me. But there we go. There's also, I did see there was a rumour about the writers and creators of What If were discussing how completely open it is, and that they can basically do whatever they want, or they feel like they can do whatever they want. And they were even mentioning what were to happen if there was a crossover for Marvel and Star Wars. Do it. Absolutely do it. You'll mess it up and it'll be absolutely awful and fans will hate it, but still do it. Because the geeky side of me obviously would love to see that. That'd be so amazing. And then, you know, hopefully they could expand on that if it was popular. But as soon as you get Star Wars involved, inevitably it becomes a very conflicted thing. But anyway, the possibilities for the What If series are fantastic. It's just trying to deliver on that. At the moment, 2 episodes in is falling short. For me, it is anyway. I know people love it. I know it's really popular. And if you love it, fantastic. Enjoy it. But it's just not for me. Not yet. Well, I mean, we'll see. Episode 3 is next week. It will get better, I'm sure. There'll be more characters in it that I like. You know, I like Steve Rogers, but it didn't really... Again, it doesn't make any sense. Why is it that Steve Rogers is not allowed to join the armed forces because he's skinny and unhealthy and what have you, and yet he's allowed to then fly the equivalent of an Iron Man suit, a military Iron Man suit in episode 1 of What If? If he's allowed and capable of doing that, why didn't they put him in the Air Force to fly a jet? Well, not a jet, but, you know, I don't get it. Why do that? Because if they're allowing him to basically fly around in a flying tank, then clearly he would have been useful in the first place and wouldn't have needed the serum to have become a soldier. So you just, you know, there's just too many things in this that are just wrong to me, really. You know, loads of these little things in the first episode that just are so frustrating to see, because they're just quite ridiculous. And then in episode 2, the whole Thanos thing, at one point it was quite entertaining, and then you suddenly sit back and think, wow, they've really ruined that character, and the impact that he had. Now he's just all fluffy and stupid and funny. So yeah. Anyway, there we go. Those are my initial kind of thoughts and reactions to the first 2 episodes. I will carry on watching, and hopefully, as I say, hopefully it will pick up, and they'll do better stories with less mistakes in them, and they'll actually do justice to these characters, and hopefully it'll lead somewhere, and hopefully it'll be popular enough that they start to consider at least putting some of these variants into live action, which would be good, and actually make it really relevant and make it worth watching. So, what do you guys think? Do you like it? Are you enjoying it? Episodes 1 and 2. How do you feel? Have you seen these mistakes? Are you not bothered by them? Do you think there's a reasonable, sensible solution to all of these things that I have issues with? Be my counsellor. Yeah, let me guys know. I'd love to know. I'm sure people love it. I know they do. So yeah, let's get into it and have a conversation about it. So with that said, I think my guys are all done. Hit me up in the comments down below with your thoughts, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.